Those private companies are not private. Hi, I'm Nate Houseman, and it's my hope that you follow this channel and get news, knowledge, and resources to help thrive on your own terms in the 21st century. In this segment, we're going to look at how big corporations, including big tech, are pretty much might as well be the same as the government. They're all intertwined together, and they're all on the hook to the central banks. We're going to look at a few articles, and we're going to look at some resources on how to empower your small business or your side hustle. So let's get to it. First, I want to talk about a resource that can help you a lot and will help support this channel. I Trust Capital is a retirement and investment firm that lets you buy physical gold and physical precious metals as well as cryptocurrency and put them into your retirement plan. Now, gold and cryptocurrency are going to break central banks. Gold and silver are being being pretty much held down. The value is being held down by paper contracts. But once that plot gets exposed, gold and silver are going to shoot up in value. So you want to buy physical gold, not paper gold, and you can do that at I Trust Capital. And you can also start a 401k in Bitcoin. So if you follow the link in my description, you can get started, and it will help support my channel as well. I'll get a little referral bonus. So let's get started here. Court documents show U.S. government directed big tech to censor the public. This is from May 25th. It's by the ncdailygazette.com. Nobody can deny there has been a massive amount of censorship taking place in the social media arena, but what some have only suspected to be true is that the government is behind it. That is, until now. The Montana Daily Gazette, one of our sister publications, first reported that Dr. Shiva Ayadurai publicized court documents that prove the U.S. government entered into a formal agreement with big tech to censor speech they did not agree with. Now, I first heard of Dr. Shiva a few weeks ago. He was interviewed on the X22 Report podcast, and he told a story. This is a very accomplished data engineer. He pretty much invented email. His family came to the United States from India. They were from the lower castes in the caste system, and he's made a name for himself. Now, in the last few years, he's also run for office as a Republican. I believe he ran for the Senate, the U.S. Senate in Massachusetts, and he got shut down. I believe it was the establishment Republicans in their Good Old Boy network, and he's taken them to court, and he's made some discoveries. So let's look here. As Montana Daily Gazette reported, a combined federation of big tech companies is effectively a monopoly holding at least 90% of the current combined market share in social media. These would include such companies as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and other tech companies that make sharing viewpoints in the public square available to its users. Ayadurai, who holds 4 degrees from MIT and a PhD in biological engineering, is well known for his engineering work in communications and the internet. In recent years, however, Ayadurai has made a name for himself as a soldier of defense in the war against free speech in America. It is Ayadurai who filed this suit against several state and federal officials, as well as Twitter. As reported by the Montana Gazette, the court documents focus on an invention called Twitter Trusted Partnership and Twitter Partner Transport Portal. Twitter Partner Support Portal. This, according to the Gazette, is a means and mechanism by which federal and state governments can issue a censorship order to Twitter, which has agreed to comply with such orders, as the price of avoiding regulatory oversight. The entire court filing can be read by clicking the image below. So if you go to the ncdailygazette.com, you can look at it. A few key points from the court filing are, in 2017, in cooperation with state officials, and that they created a new centralized governing coordinating council that brought together both state and federal officials to create electronic infrastructure for surveilling speech and monitoring influence operators. Began formulating in designing the framework for silently violating the free speech rights of U.S. persons by first characterizing speakers as influence operators, IOs, thereby fabricating a sinister coronation where none exists, as the ideological framework to justify canceling speakers who exercise their right to express their opinion. That a partnership between big tech and state officials created a playbook, which is described in the court filings as a step-by-step manual on how state officials can deal with influence operators, and prescribes the best practices that must be followed. The manual, according to the court filing, promotes a unified effort that results in speed, simplicity, and efficiency, and provides all the tools that a state official would need to silence a person identified as an influence operator for opining that a state election official has violated federal law. The Montana Daily Gazette has an extensive report that is well worth the time to read. This publication highly recommends it. So let's click on it. MontanaDailyGazette.com. I'll read the whole thing, but I believe I will link this in the description. Please disable your ad blocker. Oh, that's because I'm using the Brave browser. So, but you can look at that when you're when you have a chance. So, the left has been saying, "Hey, YouTube's a private company. They can block who they want. Twitter's a private company. They can block wherever they want." Well, it's been suspected for several years that these big tech companies, they get subsidies from the government. I've heard that in California or in some states they get like Twitter gets subsidies from like the emergency broadcast system to like send out alerts through their network. It's like they're already in bed with the government. They might as well be. So this is just another smoking gun. And if the government is involved in stifling speech, then what is our government? Moving on to an opinion piece on Zero Hedge. Now this is about the meatpacking company JBS being a cyber, paying the cyber tech ransom hackers, supposedly. But let's get into this here. By Zero Hedge. There was a moment of sheer hilarity today when, during a congressional hearing, the CEO of Colonial Pipeline, Joseph Blount, took the merely farcical episode of the Colonial Pipeline ransomware hack when, as a reminder, a ragtag band of elite Russian hackers somehow managed to penetrate the company's cyber defenses, but was so stupid they left most, if not all, of the 4.4 million dollars in Bitcoin demanding ransom an easily traceable address for the FBI to track down and matchless confiscate. It is still unclear how the feds got the private key to access the hacker's digital wallet. In days, if not hours, and elevated to a level of sheer ridiculous absurdity when he told Congress that he didn't consult the FBI before paying the ransom. This, pardon the parlance of our times, is complete BS. Either the CEO is lying, or worse, he is telling the truth. As some have speculated, he, the FBI, and the hackers are all in on the so-called ransomware breach. A scenario which for now is yet another conspiracy theory, and which we will expect to become proven fact in the usual 6 to 9 months. Yet just a few hours later, the exact same ridiculous narrative meant to achieve just one thing: tarnish the reputation of Bitcoin further to the point where the U.S. will act to ban it, has struck again. And according to the Wall Street Journal, last week's big hack, that of food processing giant JBS, was also resolved when the company paid $11 million, in Bitcoin of course, because in this day and age one can't simply dump a suitcase full of cash or send a wire transfer to an incognito account, as ransom to the criminals, who will naturally soon be unveiled as Russians because, of course, responsible for the cyber attack that halted the company's operations. Yes, if this story seems identical to that of Colonial Pipeline, up to and almost matching the demanded ransom amount, it is because it is. So barren is the imagination of the administration's narrative writers, they can only regurgitate the same old story over and over. Naturally, And just like the Colonial hack, the ransom payment in Bitcoin was made to shield JBS plants from further disruption and to limit the potential impact on restaurants, grocery stores, and farmers that rely on JBS, said Andre Nogueira, chief executive of Brazilian meat company JBS SA's U.S. division. It was very painful to pay the criminals, but we did the right thing for our customers, Nogueira said Wednesday. It remains to be seen if the JDS CEO, like his Colonial colleague, promptly transferred the Bitcoin to the hacker's digital wallet without advising the FBI. First, the simple reason that the FBI already knew the crypto was inbound? Question mark. The latest shocking attack on JBS has been part of a wave of bizarre incursions using ransomware, in which companies are hit with demands for multi-million-dollar payments to regain control of their operating systems. Quick aside here. I know the Colonial pipeline, I believe I covered this in a previous video. The hackers didn't actually attack the pipeline itself or any of the systems. They attacked their company's billing system. So they went after the money by going after the money. Some questions that remain unanswered is how the hell do these multi-billion-dollar companies not have the most basic virus malware protection to prevent some outsider, be it a 13-year-old kid living in his mom's basement, some Ukrainian hacker, or the FBI, from getting access to the company's entire infrastructure and locking out the company itself. And then, this genius mastermind is so stupid they have no idea how to cover up their traces and promptly hand over the cash to the feds. Even more grotesque is that, as the Wall Street Journal notes, the attacks show how hackers have shifted from targeting data-rich companies such as retailers, banks, and insurers to essential service providers such as hospitals, transport operators, and food companies. Because apparently, instead of spending $29.95 on an antivirus program, these various companies used the cash to buy back stocks. According to the Wall Street Journal, the FBI last week attributed the JBS attack to REvil, a criminal ransomware gang, which, of course, comes from Russia because, again, of course. Nogueira said that the JBS and outside firms are conducting forensic analysis of its information technology systems, and that it isn't yet clear how the attackers access JBS's systems. What is clear is that in just a few days, these crack Russian cyber commandos will have a few dozen bitcoins less when the FBI, which organized the entire farcical affair, confiscates it all. And speaking of farcical, it gets even worse, because unlike the Colonial hack, where the company lost all control over its infrastructure, that's not quite right, it was just the billing. In the case of the JBS hack, Nogueira said that the company maintains secondary backups of all its data, which are encrypted. Here things get downright surreal. According to the official narrative, the company brought back operations at its plants using those backup systems. But JBS's technology experts cautioned the company there's no guarantee that the hackers wouldn't find another way to strike, and JBS's consultants continued negotiating with the attackers. So even though the company had regained control, it decided to pay the hackers? We didn't think we could take this type of risk that something could go wrong in our recovery process, Nogueira said of the decision to pay the hackers. It was insurance to protect our customers. All for the customers. Meanwhile, here comes yet another hearing led by that crusader for governmental uber regulation of everything, Elizabeth Warren, who will demand even more crackdown on Bitcoin because, you see, none of this would have happened if Bitcoin did not exist. Though maybe this idiotic narrative, which is so transparent, those who conceive it should be ashamed, is no longer working because, unlike the case of the Colonial pipeline, when news of the ransomware attack spread hammered Bitcoin over fears of reprisals, this time the crypto sector has barely budged, even as the weakest hands can't believe just how stupid the official government narrative has become. To this, the only possible conclusion is that yes, they really do think you are that stupid. So, yeah, this article is very editorial, but I thought it's for what it is. It's an attack on Bitcoin. It's an attack on cryptocurrency. Because the central banks, we're going to see in the next article, they're centralized, and cryptocurrency is not. Centralized banks are centrally controlled by unelected officials who either work for the Fed or Federal Reserve or whatever central bank is in your country, and they have the federal government and a lot of corporations on the hook with debt. They basically loan out money to the government, which distributes it to the banks, which loans it out to businesses, and it's almost like a pyramid scheme, or almost like a multi-level marketing organization. It's, what can I say? All right, moving on. I'm only going to read the next few paragraphs of this article, if it'll show up here. From theguardian.com, global banking regulators call for toughest rules for cryptocurrencies. Global regulators have said cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin should come with the toughest bank capital rules to avoid putting the wider financial system at risk should their value collapse suddenly. The Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, which consists of regulators from the world's leading financial centers, is proposing a new conservative prudential treatment for crypto assets that would force banks to put aside enough capital to cover 100% of potential losses. That would be the highest capital requirement of any asset, illustrating that cryptocurrencies and related investments are seen as far more risky and volatile than conventional stocks or bonds. Have you ever looked at a chart of Amazon stock? It's dipped from like 90% to whatever it is now. The only reason a company stock doesn't seem as volatile as Bitcoin is because stocks usually aren't much more than a couple $100. A single Bitcoin right now is worth about $40,000 as of today, June 15th. But there are probably a lot more stocks and units of Bitcoin. They have every asset has huge swings. Really, the thing that's not really stable is the actual fiat currency itself, because there can be so much more printed of it than Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been programmed to only ever have 20 million Bitcoin in existence ever. That's up to like maybe 18 or 19 million right now, because the individuals who run Bitcoin on their computers, they get to earn Bitcoin through this system called mining. But once it hits 21 million, that's going to be it. It'll be a set asset with a known limit. So it can't be replicated. More cannot be discovered after once it hits that limit. So you will know how much Bitcoin you have relative to everyone else. Can't say the same for fiat currency. It's based on nothing. The world's most powerful banking standards setter warned on Thursday that certain crypto assets had proved to be highly volatile, meaning they could present risks for banks as exposures increase, including liquidity risk, credit risk, market risk, operational risk, including fraud and cyber risks, money laundering, terrorist financing risk, and legal and reputation risks. So they're treating Bitcoin as an asset, which it is, but it can be, it's also a worldwide ledger that no single individual controls. Moving on to the final article here, and then we'll talk about some resources for your small business. This is from bombthrower.com by way of Zero Hedge. Banks don't see the asteroid coming. Bitcoin is de-dollarization. Ethereum is definancialization. The author's name is Mark Jeftovic. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. At the same time, the world is witnessing the inexorable move to crypto in real time. Some may question that assertion, given that the latest fear, uncertainty, and doubt cycle against cryptos has been one of the most intense that I've witnessed since getting involved in the space in 2013. Behind the FUD, we see actions. We see Russia dumping dollar assets. We hear Charlie Munger making almost childishly uninformed remarks on crypto, yet BRK is investing in one of the world's most crypto-friendly banks. We see El Salvador as the first country in the world to make Bitcoin legal tender. In my mind, this not only sounded the starting gun on de-dollarization in earnest, it goes beyond that. Back in the late 90s, people like me were about the age of many of the crypto kids today. And we were talking about the internet asteroid headed straight at the telecoms and traditional media. How right they were. Today, pretty well everybody is aware of Bitcoin. They may have positive or negative opinions on it, but most people are figuring out that it's here to stay, and there's a spectrum of sentiment around that ranging from enthusiasm to denial. But I get the sense that traditional institutional finance sector doesn't even see another asteroid coming, and it's coming straight at them. The new 60-40 portfolio will mean Bitcoin and Ethereum, or maybe Ethereum Bitcoin, whatever your risk tolerance and investment objectives entail. I've been listening to the Bankless podcast lately, and in more than one episode, they said something about Bitcoin as compared to Ethereum that I think is quite astute. It's really helped me think about the two in terms of construction and of a crypto portfolio. Now, back up. Ethereum is like the second biggest cryptocurrency after Bitcoin. Actually, Ethereum itself is not the actual currency. It's the platform on which decentralized applications can be built, and its native currency is called Ether. So, and Ethereum, decentralized apps. There's also the Cardano platform and the Polkadot platform, which I've also invested in. They're worth following, but going to Ethereum. They said, in essence, that Bitcoin is for when you're bearish on society, and Ethereum is for when you're bullish. It's not that I agree with that, literally, I don't, but it helped me refine this distinction I've always had around Bitcoin being the value and Ethereum being the execution, and a coming tectonic shift into crypto. In the olden days, bonds and equities had an inverse correlation. Bonds kept your portfolio afloat when the economy hit a soft patch, and stocks went down. Yes, in the olden days, stocks could experience bear markets, sometimes for months or even years. Conventional wisdom was to have a portfolio mix between equities and bonds, along some rule of thumb like 60-40, adjusted for your age, risk tolerance, etc. We're headed into a world where Bitcoin and Ethereum will fulfill the roles that bonds and equities did traditionally. My basic thesis of the Crypto Capitalist letter is that Bitcoin will be on the receiving end of an impending mother of all wealth transfers. Many Bitcoiners think that if Bitcoin is digital gold, that means the incoming funds flow will be from the $10 trillion gold market. I think this is wrong. Bitcoin's looming funds inflow isn't going to come from gold. Maybe some will. Maybe some shorter-term gold holders will jump ship to Bitcoin in much the same way that this latest down cycle since April has been driven largely by younger coins and weaker hands selling out. But Bitcoin's inflow will come largely from the more than 10 times larger bond market, not gold, not 10 trillion, 120 trillion, of which 20 trillion of it already yields negative returns. A simple layer 1 Bitcoin lending program with an institutional level custodian like Gemini or Galaxy, which we hold in our portfolio, would yield 400 basis points right there. And that's not without even accounting for price appreciation. The TAM is everything. But what I didn't realize until the Bankless panel this week about the current state of DeFi is that there's another $100 trillion plus market, and it's going to be sending its value in a parallel mother of all wealth transfers. That wealth transfer is the flight of assets from the traditional banking system into Ethereum and into DeFi, and DeFi stands for decentralized finance. In my mind, this is what DeFi actually means. Where financialization is the widespread hollowing out of all value and turning it into multiple layers of rehypothecated debt, DeFi is definancializing assets. And if you want to know what rehypothecation means, I have an article on my blog about the current crisis with the Federal Reserve and all the money it's printed. DeFi is where money gets intelligence and value can compound, where tokenized assets increase their purchasing power over time. It's where savers are rewarded instead of penalized and demonized. It's where capital formation is possible. Most institutions won't be making this transformation. The majority of them will gravitate towards the central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, which, as we say in the Crypto Capitalist Manifesto, CBDCs will be specifically constructed to preclude savings, make capital formation impossible, and will be a honeypot of dependency for the masses who allow their economic lives to be bounded by them. But many of those institutional clients, the ones that see the great bifurcation coming, will make the shift, and they'll bring their capital with them. I see this playing out in real time, in the world and in my personal experience. Here's three quick data points. 1. Trying to set up a simple US dollar or CAD hedge with my bank for the biz. Something I have already done 10 years ago when the CAD strengthened above the Canadian dollar strengthened above the US dollar. This time it took months of meetings, and they want me to put up 4.5 times collateral on the hedge and sign off on the personal guarantee. Setting up that same business for EFT transfers for a large client and the bank solemnly informed us, you must possess a fax machine to use this system. Okay. I'll see if I can dig one out from the back of my storage locker. Until recently, their online fax system also only ran on Internet Explorer, which goes end of life next year. My credit card company, until recently, charged me a fee when I overpaid my balance. They owed me money in terms of an inactivity fee. This is the type of institutional lethargy that is all tailwind and gasoline for DeFi. In the case of the Forex exchanges, I'm now looking at places like Synthetics and hiring a smart contract developer to simply create the hedges for me. The way I envision it, anybody would be able to earn a return on their assets by staking the liquidity pool for USD or CAD, and Canadian businesses with exposure to the US dollar currency weakness would be able to easily hedge that without pledging their house. If you know anybody who can help me out, his DMs are open. I'm canceling that credit card and getting set up with one of the many new crypto-backed credit cards that give you cash back on every purchase in crypto. One of the reasons people are skeptical of crypto and fool themselves into thinking it's some kind of passing fad, Ponzi, or negligently unformed tulips is because this is happening so fast, in real time. They didn't read Future Shock back in the 1970s, 80s, or 90s, or if they did, they either forgot about it or didn't fully understand what it meant. Bitcoin is going to eat the bond market and capture the flight from fiat currencies. It'll become that digital gold or bond equivalent in a crypto portfolio. Ethereum is going to demolish the financial institutions and probably be the front against the CBDCs, functionally. CBDCs will be disposable money. Get it, spend it, use it on disposable stuff if it's algorithmically permitted and that you don't mind being surveilled buying. So, and I don't have time to read it now, but let's look at a description of what a decentralized autonomous organization is. Decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs for short, they're going to replace the corporation someday. Blockchain technology enables novel ways to exchange value and information while automating complex processes in a transparent and secure manner. A decentralized autonomous organization, DAO, is an organization that runs on a blockchain protocol fully and autonomously in accordance with the rules encoded via smart contracts. Smart contracts are basically computer programs that work as contracts between people or groups. By circumventing the need for human intervention or centralized control, DAOs are often referred to as trustless systems. With cryptographic instructions that automatically execute when pre-established conditions are triggered, DAOs enable previously unattainable levels of transparency, cost savings, and decentralized decision-making. So, you can see why the federal government, the global banks, certain senators, and certain CEOs are so scared of blockchain, of Bitcoin, because it's power to the people. And we're going to see some massive resistance from the incumbent power structures, but we're going to see a lot of resistance from the power structures, but transparency is only growing thanks to the internet. So it's going to be rough for the next maybe year or so until we figure out, whether Biden's the real president or not. Wink, wink. But it will serve you. It will serve you well to start your side hustle, start your small business, start your own way of doing things. So that'll bring us to our last few referral offers here. I use a company called DreamHost to host my websites and my blog. DreamHost, what I like about DreamHost is they have unlimited, storage space for your blog or your e-commerce online store, and they have said in their Facebook ads comments that they do support free speech. Whether that's true, we'll see. But we can, for now, we'll hold them to it. And if not, there are so many other hosts you can switch to. For now, you can click on the link in my description to DreamHost, and I'll get a referral bonus. That'll support the my channel, and it'll set you up for a good website. And once you have that website, install WordPress and go to Elegant Themes. Elegant Themes make the most popular WordPress theme in the world, and that's Divi. Divi is what I use now. I used to think it was kind of like a little poo-poo, foo-foo, overpriced theme, but it's actually probably the best deal for the money. It has a very, easy to use point-and-click page builder, and it already has several pre-made layouts built in, which you can tweak to your heart's content. So you can build an online store, you can build an agency page, a restaurant website, and they have a marketplace of pre-made templates and add-ons. So there's that. So click on the link in the description and get started with Divi. And if you need any knowledge on how to set up your website for success, I suggest you go to my website, natehausman.net, and buy my book. As soon as it loads here, Be True, Cut Through Quarantine Edition. Come on. Still loading. I wrote this book, and you can download it as a PDF for $11.99, and it'll explain to you how to turn a website into a marketing funnel, and how to run a blog, how to advertise, how to hire freelancers for help, how to hire your own staff, and it'll show you that you may think you're hacking it on your own without a huge marketing budget, but thanks to the internet, you're not alone. You've got YouTube, you've got your blog, you've got your podcast, you've got social networks, you've got alternative websites like Minds.com, Odyssey, Library. There is so much opportunity out there thanks to the internet. I want you to take advantage of it. So with that, I will let you go. Hope to see you again soon.